What's up everyone, in this video we're going to go over the use of ND filters with the Mini 4 Pro, which is applicable to any other drone. So I'm going to talk about what ND filters do, how to use them, and when to use them. I want to give a big shout out to Freewill for sending me these ND filters for the Mini 4 Pro. This video is not sponsored by them, but they did send it to me for free to test out. I've been using Freewill's ND filters for as long as I've been flying drones. They've always been of top quality, and I'm going to talk a little more about the ND filters set that they sent me later on in this video. So let's get started. So what are ND filters? And I'm sure you've heard this phrase before. ND filters are like sunglasses for your camera. Yes, that's exactly what it is. Now, I'm sure you've also heard of polarized sunglasses. Yes, there's polarized ND filters too, and I'm going to talk about that as well. So ND filters help manage the amount of light that enters your drone's camera, especially in very bright conditions, preventing overexposure and maintaining a more balanced and natural look in your photos and videos. ND filters allow the drone's camera to use slower shutter speeds in bright conditions, which help capture smoother and more cinematic motion in videos by reducing the effects of fast movements. Now, let me give you an example of this. So let's say you're filming a video at 30 frames per second. What you want to do is film at double your frame rate. So if you're filming at 30, you want to film at 1/60th of a second shutter speed. So what this helps you with is achieving that natural cinematic motion blur which the human eye is accustomed to seeing. When you don't use an ND filter in bright conditions, the camera will be using a faster shutter speed, and this could cause your footage to look a little unnatural and make it look a little too jittery. It also helps improve image quality. By reducing the amount of light without changing the color or quality, ND filters enhance the overall image or video quality by providing some balanced and visually pleasing results, especially in scenarios with very bright or reflective surfaces like water or snow. Basically, ND filters help you capture more visually pleasing photos and videos in varying lighting conditions. Now about when and how to use ND filters. Now when you're filming out in the day and it's pretty bright, you want to bring your shutter speed down to what is double your frame rate. Let's say if you're filming at 60 frames per second, you want to bring it to 1/120. Now when you're filming over reflective surfaces such as water, you want to use a polarizer filter. Now what this does is reduce the amount of glare entering your camera. Landscape photographers also use polarizer filters in order to get more saturation in their photos. Let's say you want to get some long exposure shots of the shores and you want to get those silky smooth waves and it's pretty bright outside. You want to use a pretty dark ND filter such as ND 512 or ND 1000, probably even higher depending on how slow you want the shutter speed to be. So if you use an ND 1000 filter, you'll probably get around 1 second of shutter speed, which will allow you to get that smooth silky motion blur. And when I film hyperlapses, I always almost use an ND filter, and I use a pretty dark one in order to get the shutter speed down to about 1/4. This is because when I have subjects in my hyperlapses, I want to get that motion blur, so I get the shutter speed down to 1/4 or 1/5. The problem with using ND filters with a drone like Mini 4 Pro is that you don't have an adjustable aperture and it's fixed at f1.7. The problem is if you use a wrong ND filter, you'll have to land the drone and put the right one on and then take off again. However, with drones like the Mavic 3 Pro, you can adjust the aperture in order to get that preferred shutter speed in case you use a wrong ND filter. So how would you know which ND filter to use when? So in most conditions, you would be using an ND16 or ND32. Now ND32 is when it's pretty bright out, and it does get your shutter speed down to 150 if you're filming in 24 frames per second in most cases. However, if you find that it's way too bright outside and you want to bring it down, you can use the ND64, which is even stronger. So I'd say for me, the ND32 works best when it's very bright out, like say around midday when the sun is at its peak. I use an ND32 filter and it works perfectly fine when I need to film a video. However, in the mornings around 9 or 10 a.m. or maybe around 3 or 4 p.m., I tend to use the ND16 filter. Now this is something you'll have to use the trial and error method to make sure you know which one you're using, and you'll eventually learn. I prefer using ND polarizer filters because I like to get that extra saturation in my photos and in my videos as well. So I tend to use the ND polarizers more than ND filters. This ND filter set that Freewell sent me also includes a mist filter. Now this helps you get that halo effect in your videos, which you can also achieve in post. So when you put on this filter, you'll find this slightly blurry, hazy look, kind of like a very dreamy look in your videos and photos. Now, if you like filming that type of content, you can use the mist filter. I use ND filters almost all the time when flying my drones. Overall, it helps your footage look better. ND filters definitely help your footage look smoother and more natural and better. Now, if you have any more questions about using ND filters, make sure to drop them in the comments below and I'll be sure to answer them as soon as possible. And if you're interested in getting these ND filters, I'll make sure to link them in the description below as well. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video and I'll see you in the next one.